Okay, let's go ahead and verify the trigonometric identity. And that's what we have right here. And if you're watching this video, it's a good chance that you are, if you're interested in this video, it's a good chance that you're studying this material. If not, I can probably recommend you to a lot of a lot more entertaining videos outside of this. Okay, so if you're like, "Oh, well, I'm interested in trigonometric identities, well, it's a good chance again that you're studying this. Now, typically, students will study trigonometric identities as part of a trigonometry course separately. But that's not as common. Generally, trigonometry is part of like an Algebra 2 trigonometry course, but probably most typically it's part of a pre-calculus course. If you're studying this, there's a good chance you're in one of those courses or maybe some other advanced college course. Bottom line is, if you are studying trigonometry, verifying trigonometric identities or working with trigonometric identities is a big, big deal. Very, very important. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to verify this trigonometric identity. So a couple things here. One, most students, when they first start studying trigonometry and they run into trigonometric identities, especially more challenging problems, the typical facial expression is kind of like this. They get frustrated with the difficulty of this stuff because it can be challenging. Okay, and we'll talk about all the things you need to be successful in terms of being able to verify a trigonometric identity. But I'll just start off by saying this: if you are in like a pre-calculus course or any other type of course, you have to have super strong algebra skills at a minimum. Okay, so if you didn't do well in like the prerequisite courses here, then this is going to be tough stuff. But I'm going to walk through and give you some tips on how to solve any trigonometric identity, but we're going to specifically tackle this one in just 1 second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher. And over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. If you're interested, you can find a link to my math help program in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses ranging from pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and finally, I just launched pre-calculus. I have a couple finishing touches on putting on it, but that's an active course. I deployed it. So if you are studying this material, you would want to check out my pre-calculus course. Now, I actually put the link to my pre-calculus course in the description of this video as well, so you can go directly to it. But I really teach, obviously pre-calculus, trigonometric identities, all the stuff that you're going to need to know, all that advanced stuff will be in my course. But I also do a lot in the area of test preparation. So if you're studying for the GED, high set task, GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, AccuPlacer, SAT, ACT. I don't know if I said that already. Anyways, continuing on, CLEP exam, maybe a teacher certification exam like the Praxis exam, or there's a ton of tests out there that people have to take. What's the one thing they have in common? They all have math on them. Somebody out there thinks math is pretty important. So if you're not successful on the math sections, you don't do well on the exam. So I can help you prepare. So just go to my website, check out my full course catalog. If I don't have your exam, drop me a line and I'll help you out the best I can. I also do a lot of work with homeschoolers. So if you homeschool, I have a great homeschool learning program. And then obviously, I help those of you who are having a tough time in your current math courses. Now, if you're at this level of mathematics, then you really, really need to pay attention to what I'm going to tell you. And that is this: if you're truly serious about being great at mathematics, you have to be great at note taking. And chances are, if you're at this level of math, you're probably a pretty good student. But if you are struggling and if you have like average notes, then you need to kick it up. Okay, so I've been teaching math for decades, and one thing is crystal clear to me: those students have excellent math notes, go above and beyond with their notes, almost always do well. And the reverse is true. Those students who kind of like, get distracted with their cell phone, you know the drill, okay? Especially at this level of math, you have to be 100% focused consistently, okay? Like, if not, you'll miss too much details, and this is all about the details, okay? And of course, your prerequisites, being prepared. But anyways, as you improve in your note taking, you can actually use my notes. Now, the notes that I have aren't going to be appropriate for this yet, because I'm going to be creating some pre-calculus notes. But I currently have pre-algebra, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Trigonometry, but I'm going to make a more advanced note set for pre-calculus, would include more advanced trigonometry. But if you are interested in any of my materials, you'd want to go directly to my pre-calculus course, which includes the notes, etc., etc. Okay, so if you think you can verify this identity, I would certainly encourage you to just, pause the video and see what you can come up with. But let's get to it. And first of all, what is an identity? We're always talking about, hey, verify the identity. What is an identity? Well, an identity in mathematics is nothing more than a relationship that we're stating, or basically, a relationship that's equal. Okay, so for example, I can say x plus 1 squared. Well, I can think of this as an identity because x plus 1 squared is equal to this, okay, x squared plus 2x plus 1. Of course, I would just go over here, x plus 1. If I wanted to verify this, I would go, okay, x plus 1 times x plus 1. I would do all the little FOIL algebra math, and I would come up with this. I will have verified that the left is in fact equal to the right, and the right is equal to the left. So this is the idea. We're talking about trigonometric identities. You're basically establishing a relationship. You're saying whatever this stuff is over here, it's equal to this stuff, and vice versa. Okay, but we have to validate these things, and working with trigonometric identities, it's extremely important. Okay, they help us take something complex, okay, and have an easier version to manipulate trigonometric expressions with something that's easier. Okay. However, before you learn how to verify trigonometric identities, you need to first learn some basic fundamental identities. And I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the ones you should know right now. All right, so these are fundamental trigonometric identities. Now, above and beyond these guys, you're going to learn a lot of other identities. There's the double and half angles, sum and difference, product sum. There's other identities, but these are the ones that you got to first start off with. So I'm not going to regurgitate all of these, but if you don't know these, then this video is going to be a little bit advanced for you. Okay, you need to focus in on the fundamental trigonometric identities, and this stuff has to be in your notes. All right, some of the stuff eventually you're going to have to kind of commit to memory, and you will as you practice more trigonometry. But here you have sine x is equal to 1 over cosine x. You can just kind of see all of these. They should look familiar to you. All right, I'm scrolling through quite a bit. Okay, but if you're studying trigonometry, you're working with these guys all the time. Now down here, you have sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. And you got these other versions of the Pythagorean identities. And just a special note here, when you write sine squared x like this, that notation, that means sine x squared. All right, so just as long as there's no confusion there, or sine x times sine x, we can write as sine squared x. Okay, so these are the fundamental identities. They should look familiar to you. Okay, and these are things that your teacher teaches you and whatnot, but these are some very, very important things like tangent x is equal to sine x over cosine x. A lot of this stuff you're going to want to commit to your long-term memory. But anyways, let's get to our problem. And I'm going to be using some of these fundamental identities. Now, there are other identities, and there's different ways you can approach this problem. Okay, so when we're verifying trigonometric identities, you can do, there's not just one right answer. Okay, so that's the first thing. But our objective here is to verify or establish kind of proof that the left-hand side is in fact equal to the right-hand side. Now, here are some general guidelines. Okay, first of all, that's not in these guidelines is just the obvious common sense stuff. One, you have to be strong in algebra. At this level of math, you have to have aced, like your Algebra 2 course or whatnot. You've done really, really well, okay, with that stuff. If you, that would include like factoring and multiplying polynomials, all that kind of good stuff. So if you're struggling with the algebra, then you're going to have to go back and review that, to be successful with working with trigonometric identities. But beyond that, let's go ahead and take a look at some guidelines here. So the first thing is you want to work with one side of the identity, okay? Generally, it's the more complicated side. So in other words, what does that mean? So over here, I have two sides here. I have this side And this side, typically you want to just work with one side, and we want to generally take this more complicated side and manipulate it until we can eventually make it look like this. Okay, so that's generally the best approach. Okay, now of course there's always exceptions to things, but let's move on. The second thing is you want to look for all kinds of opportunities to factor, add or subtract fractions, multiply binomials. There's all kinds of stuff. So you're going to have to look for all kinds of algebraic opportunities. And there isn't any one way to do this. All right. So this stuff just takes practice. Right. But look to factor, definitely look to add or subtract fractions. And again, you'll kind of get a sense of, as you progress in the problem, if it's taking you in the right direction. And for those of you that are doing these trigonometric identity problems, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Now, you can also look to pair sine and cosine. Those are great pairs. So in other words, you can write things in terms of sine and cosine, or secant and tangent, or cosecant and cotangent. These are all nice pairs that you can look to develop. So again, we have different options the way we can write things, but if you can get things in terms of these pairs, that's pretty good. Kind of like as a last resort, if you're really struggling, you just turn everything into sine and cosine. Just rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine, and then start the problem again. Okay, so this is kind of a last resort type of technique. But again, there isn't any one single way, and your solution could look, different than mine, but it could be perfectly correct. Mine might take shorter. We might take, less work. Yours might take double the work. It doesn't make a difference as long as you are correctly using all these fundamental identities to establish that the left-hand side is equal to the right, or this is equal to this, and vice versa. Then you will have accomplished, the mission here. Okay, so let's get to it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work again with the complicated side. I'm going to work with this side here, and I'm going to make it look, I'm going to manipulate this until I get a 2 cosecant x. And when I've done that, I will have verified it. So first things first, I'm going to add these fractions, and I'm going to use my lovely bow tie method. I'm going to take this times this, sine x times sine x, that's sine x squared, 1 plus cosine x times 1 plus cosine x. By the way, they don't have grouping symbols, but you need to be thinking in terms, this is a sum. Okay, so 1 plus cosine x times 1 plus cosine x is 1 plus cosine x squared. And then here I can get my denominator, which would be 1 plus cosine x times sine x. All right, so that's what this is down here. Now I'm going to leave this in a factored form because I'm hoping to have opportunities to factor. So I'm not going to multiply in quite yet. All right, so again, now at this point, now if you didn't know what I did, you can add these fractions differently, get into LCD. But this little technique, you should look at my my pre-algebra playlist on my YouTube channel. I talk about this bow tie method of adding fractions. It's absolutely gold in terms of dealing with stuff like this. I didn't have to think. I'm just going boom, 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 and now I got this is equal to this. All right, now at this point, I have sine x times 1 plus cosine x, but I have addition up here in the numerator, so I can't really do anything with this. So I'm going to have to multiply this out. So 1 plus cosine x squared, again, this is like doing, a plus b squared. Okay, you should know this. At this level of math, I'm not going to explain basic algebra to you, but if you know how to do that, you would end up with this. We still have our sine x right here, and let me kind of show you right there. Still have my sine x, but 1 plus cosine x squared, this expands out to cosine x squared plus 2 cosine x plus 1. Now I just wrote it this way. Okay, I just wrote the terms in this direction, but this is equal to this. Okay, now if you don't know why, or if you're struggling, then that is an indication that your problems right now are above and beyond just trigonometric identities. You have algebra issues. Okay, that can be resolved, but you're going to have to go back and practice that stuff. All right, so now I'm saying, okay, what can I do? Let me go and erase all this. So I have some things I can combine and kind of clean up here. But anytime you see sine squared, okay, and a cosine squared like this, you want to get them together because this identity right here, fundamental identity, let me go up, 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 up. This guy comes in super handy all the time. So notice I have sine squared x plus cosine squared x. That's equal to 1. You want to remember this one, okay? This is a great identity, comes in pretty handy quite frequently. So let me go down here. Okay, so I got my sine squared x, cosine squared x. These are all separated by additions sign, so I'm going to put these guys together. So this is 1. Okay, I'll show you this here in a second. So now I got 1 plus 2 cosine x right there. So now I'm like, ooh, this is kind of shaping up into something. And you don't really know if you're on the right track with some, in terms of verifying these identities. So you're kind of in the middle of the problem. But as long as you feel like you're simplifying, just keep going with the flow of the problem. Okay, so there isn't any determination at this point, like, okay, we're on the right track, we're going to be able to do this. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you just have to keep going until, if you run into a dead end, then you can try some of those other techniques that I, was talking about. All right, so I know that this is going to be equal to 1, so let's go and put that now. Here is that same setup. So I have sine squared x plus cosine squared x. This is 1. Okay, then of course I have my 1 plus 2 cosine x right there. So 1 plus 2 cosine x, again, 1 plus 1, that's going to be a lovely 2. Okay, so now I'm like, oh, I got a 2 there, I got a 2 here. This is looking like something. So I have 2 plus 2 cosine x. So you get excited at this point in the problem. You're like, oh, wow, I can factor something. I can factor out a 2 over here, right? That's a GCF, greatest common factor, and let's do that now. All right, so I can factor out a 2, and that leaves me with what? 1 plus cosine x. I'm so excited because I have this 1 plus cosine x down there in the denominator. Now you're getting happy. Generally, your facial expressions like, awesome, I'm amazing, and that's correct. If you got this point, you're like, yep, I'm feeling good. And what can I do at this point? You could be like, cross cancel, and I'm left with 2 sine x, okay? But you're saying, well, I want cosecant x, but we're not done. So I got 2 sine x, so let's make sure we understand. If you didn't recognize this is the same thing as 2 times 1 over sine x. 1 over sine x is, in fact, cosecant x, so 2 times cosecant x, and there you go. You just verified it. So we need to go ahead and, if you got this right, give you your A+, your 100%, and extra hairspray on your 1985 Mohawk, okay? So pretty cool stuff. If you're able to do this problem on your own, that's excellent, right? I would say this is maybe, kind of an average trigonometric identity problem, a little bit of medium level, let's just say. Not the hardest, but not the easiest as well. But if you got it right, okay, then excellent. Okay, if you actually remembered all these fundamental identities, then that's even better. Okay, but if you're like, no, I didn't get this right, or I couldn't do this, but now you understand, that's the whole point of the video, okay, is to show you how this is done. But every problem is going to be different, okay? Sometimes you're dealing with cosecant, tangent, cotangent. You never know, okay? Keep these guidelines in mind. And the only way you're going to get good at this stuff is beyond having, your strong algebra background and all your awesome trig notes, is practice. Okay, you're gonna practice, and that's where you're gonna get better. So again, if you're interested in more help, I'm going to start doing more advanced videos now on trigonometry, etc. But if you're in dire need of pre-calculus or trigonometry help, then you definitely want to check out my pre-calculus course. Again, I'm going to leave the link in the description, the direct link to my course and to my math program as well. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to smash that like button, okay? That definitely helps me out. Been on YouTube for 10 plus years, have over 1,000 plus videos, basic to advanced math, but now I'm going to be doing a little bit more in the advanced math area to help those of you that are taking these courses, because, this is kind of difficult stuff. And congratulations, if you are taking pre-calculus, hey, it means that you've been doing something pretty good in terms of your math education, all right? But now at this level, even like strong students can be humbled. Let's say this much, because some of this stuff could be pretty difficult, so don't feel bad about getting extra help, okay? All right, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.